Awesome. So we have everyone here, Anna, Peter, Ray, and Ian, as well as myself, Amber, here for episode 1 of Queer in Cyber. So we've got some topics. Let me see if I can pop them in the chat here for the crew, everyone, just so we can chat. So our topic for this week is going to be around a few little pieces, mainly kind of returning to the office, how that is being affected by the cyber jobs crisis. Are we calling it a crisis now? I think we are. And kind of the margins we live in and how those grow and shrink according to situations like this, right? So I know that this was an idea that you had, Peter, so I kind of want to open it up to you to talk a little more about how this popped into your head. I know that a lot of us have personally been dealing with what's going on with the jobs in the cybersecurity industry, and I know you have a lot of big feelings about it right now.
I have only big feelings. And I think that's something that we have in common across cyber and queerness is big feelings. Let me give a little update on where things are in terms of like around this thing. First, just calling something queer in cyber and putting it out in the world, it's turned out to be really powerful. There's a lot of interest in what we're doing. There's a lot of sort of like expectation about what we're going to do. I realized the other day that people think we're building like a membership organization of movement. It was like, there's no membership here. Like, this is just like, formally, this is like the marketing arm of Nearshore Cyber, but there's no money in it. And it works out better that way. I hope that there will be a movement, but it's probably not going to be this from this. I think what we really want to do is first get people talking to each other, become more public, put the little flag thing on your profile and put LGBTQ in your profile, because I search for that. I look for us using
That's
keywords
a great
on
point.
LinkedIn.
I don't think I've done that. I've put my pronouns out there, but I don't think I've actually specifically done that. So great call out.
Yeah, let's be findable. Let's help each other professionally. Let's make friends. As for the labor crisis, it's really hard to figure it out. I mean, in the past week, I've started to see more people get jobs than lose jobs, but I also think that there's a lot of sort of people in the out of work closet. Let's be out on both fronts. Let's make it public that, like, if you're looking for work, like, put it out there. If you are queer and a cybersecurity professional and looking for work, be public about it, because we want to help. There are a lot of jobs that come to me I can't take, but if I know who you are, I can refer them to you. Another thing that has become apparent is that there's like a lack of understanding around gender theory. So, like, I've been reading this thing, which is pretty cool. I'll post a link to the electronic version. Talks about things like the Kinsey scale and the Klein matrix and stuff like that, which lends itself nicely to understanding who we are as cybersecurity professionals, using the kind of frameworks that were used to understand gender and sexuality. But there are a couple of other sort of thoughts I had from since last time. But it's been an interesting 10 days, and yes, we are late with this, but we're busy.
No, definitely. For the sake of just realness here, Peter, one thing I'm going to ask you to do is just move your mic down like half an inch.
There?
Just because breath is hitting it a little. Yeah,
just not enough path
of breath. I think it'll be fine now if you want to talk.
Check 1 2 checkity sibilance.
Perfect. Glorious. So kind of to bring back something that you said there, we should be out about looking for jobs. There's so much shame around being unemployed when it has nothing to do with your situation, like anything you've done in a lot of what's going on right now in cybersecurity. Like, it's somebody in an office who makes way more money than all of us put together, making a decision about like what margins need to be cut down. And yet people feel so ashamed about it and don't want to talk about the fact they're looking. And a lot of things that some recruiters are saying about what they're looking for and how they don't want to hire people who are unemployed and only want to hire people who are employed is feeding into that too. Something that other thing you said, Peter, was really great, which was that we should be out in our queerness also while looking, because it's one of the things that makes us special and unique. And I think that a lot of people do the opposite of that. And I kind of want to talk about that as one of our talking points to go around the horn, which is when you are job hunting, sort of on a sliding scale of your level of, I don't want to call it desperation, but perhaps intensity of job hunting. Do you scale yourself back in your queerness, in your, I mean, I'm just gonna say in your weirdness?
So I'm going to jump in and answer directly.
Yeah.
This happened when I was laid off. I had services through the company that I was affected through to have a renovation on my LinkedIn and kind of taking a look at my resume. So through that conversation, I asked her, I said, hey, I've had less traffic. I mentioned this to Vera. I've had less traffic when I have my pronouns. Once I take them off, then I start getting more, I don't know necessarily if you call it reach out, but just more traffic in my LinkedIn, right? I asked her, do you think I should really keep them down, right? And she told me, well, let me ask you this. Would you want to be part of a company that doesn't want anything to do with you because you have your pronouns up? I said, you just answered my question. I absolutely do not want to engage with a company that is going to not allow me to have my pronouns or is going to see me differently on that. And while it is difficult, because as you say, Amber, some of us are going to get to a point that are desperate, that are passionate, that are at some point despair. And we do want to, at the end of the day, feed our families, right? We have to continue paying our bills. So it really depends on the line or the timeline that we're in, right? If I can say, okay, maybe I can go 1 or 2 months continuing to be me and potentially find a place where I'll be fully welcome, then by all means. But if I'm about to lose my house, about to lose Medicare services or whatever the situation is for everybody else, then it's like, I'm going to keep them down for a minute. I'm going to ride it until I can continue to sustain my life. And then I'll continue to look, because if it's into that same narrative of recruiters want to hire people that are already in a job. So maybe this is just a stepping stone until I find a place where I can be fully me.
That's great. Anybody have anything else they want to add? Yeah.
But first of all, I want to say, Anna, that as usual, stole what I was going to say and said it better. So kudos to Anna for doing that. I wanted to throw a couple of extra things on there that I was thinking. I mean, I totally agree. It's like if a company, would you want to work for a company that wouldn't want to hire you because you're queer or because you use pronouns or because, you have a cat instead of a dog? What I want to emphasize on that is something, I've been talking to a number of people that are either looking for another job or trying to move careers because I've been doing a lot of mentoring, or just people that I've met online, a couple of whom have been not necessarily queer. I don't even know in this one case, but that, they're reaching that desperate point. And I think, there's some benefit in well, it's happening to everyone. And I think ultimately it all comes back to what I say to absolutely everyone. You're going to get your next job that you actually like through networking. And I'm sorry, people in the tech industry, 98% of you don't like networking, and 98% of you are going to find your next job through networking. So you're going to have to make peace with that. And this goes back to something Peter was talking about. This is why you identify yourself with a network of people that you are part of or that you want to work with, because that's how you're going to find your job. So being yourself is part of that, because the people that are in your network, people that know you, the kind of people that are going to say, oh, here's Anna, you should hire her because she's awesome, are probably the kind of people you want to work with, and are probably the kind of people that don't care if you're queer, and are probably the kind of people who already know your pronouns and do their best to use them. And, it's, I thought that would make clear a lot. But that's what I wanted to add. You're going to get your next job through networking, so find the networks that work for you I was trying to encourage someone who just became a soccer mom to talk to the other soccer moms, because some of them might have jobs or know someone who does. I'm unemployed. And I'm like, yeah, and you're a soccer mom. That's a ready-made audience of other soccer moms. You've got something in common with them. You're all standing freezing to death while your children run around and kick a ball. So, same thing for all this, which is why I think, Peter, people are asking you, is this a membership thing? Is this something I can join? Because they're looking for community. And so back to your point where Amber and I were like, I don't think it's on my profile. Maybe there should be a flag.
Yeah.
I think
I
everyone.
copied mine from Ray's profile. That's where I got it. So, I stole it
Yeah.
from
Honestly,
her.
I think everyone has paid any membership requirement in living in a world where you have to worry about what your next step is. Testing the waters with family, testing the waters with, everything. And like Anna brought out in the last episode about the correlation between people like us and OSINT and cybersecurity. And we test the waters all the time. I'm not going to say, all right, I'll say it. We do our own penetration testing all the time. But what I'm saying is we test the vulnerabilities. And we've been way too vulnerable for too long. And I unabashedly have, since I went on LinkedIn, I have had my pronouns, I have had the flags, I have had all that. I refuse to take it down. I refuse to take it down for a job. I don't care. I'll go work loading trucks at FedEx. I did it before, I'll do it again. I'm not going to compromise myself and who I am and my individuality to work someplace where chances are they probably don't want people like me there anyway. I go as far as being proactive to job applications by looking up whether a certain company recruits via the LinkedIn group and website Red Balloon, which is the anti-woke recruiting agency. And they refuse to recognize DEI pronouns. It's for the people that don't want to deal with us. They will recruit through Red Balloon. So I will double check to make sure that company, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste my time applying or dealing with anyone. I don't want to be halfway through an interview process and, we came across something a bit concerning. Oh, well, what is that? Well, you seem to have this flag on your profile on LinkedIn. And it's like, okay, yeah, I got another flag for you. So,
Yeah, that's a great, I had never heard of Red Balloon.
Yeah.
That's a great pointer.
How
I
do
look
they
at
around all the other groups that are actually protected classes, federal protected classes? It's like, is it like, we're discouraging people of color just by being anti-woke, or is it, is it purely focused on? There's a lot of boundaries there that are probably being crossed, legal boundaries. Sorry, that was a random thought.
It's
no, definitely.
They would discriminate. So, but it's not like we haven't had that time in history where there were signs posted outside of businesses saying that, you can't work here.
So something important to consider as well, not only the companies that we want to apply for, excuse me, but where they are located, right?
Yes.
And I think it touches back into what we're going to continue to discuss is how important is it to return to office if we have right now the capabilities of working remotely. I interviewed for a company that was in Utah. Well, I had to consider my safety. And while I really, really could see the company doing great things for diversity, great things to improve inclusivity, am I willing to go into the office? Am I willing to drive my whole family across the country and then move to a place where I know I'm not welcome. And not only that, but I may not even have a community, right? Where I currently live in Texas, I have my dad, I have friends that welcome me. I have my job that I trust I can be now, right? Safe. If I was to have made that move and there was something to happen at my house, I couldn't call my dad and say, "Hey, dad, come drive 15 minutes and come and help me with this," right? Across the country is going to change. So while we're considering not only the companies have to realize that if they truly want to be diverse, inclusive, and have a sense of belonging, return to office is not going to work. There are states that are not going to be supporting us. There are states that are actively having laws that are against us and really diminishing us as humans, right? And so if you really want top talent, you have to recognize that top talent also comes with things that we want to favor us and protect us. You're not going to do that by me coming into the office.
And it extends to benefits also, medical benefits, where the laws in some states are, prohibiting hormones for gender-related care. And what do you do then? If I'm working for, someone said to me once, they said, well, are you, it's not like your hormones are like a heart medicine where if you don't have them, you'll die. And I said, really? I said, so let's say someone had pain issues to the point where they need a certain medication to mitigate the pain that they have. And if they don't have it, they will consider taking their own life. Well, that's different. That's pain. And I'm like, how is that different? How is that different? Because until now, 4 years after HRT, I wanted to kill myself multiple times. So how is that different? How is that not pain? And, they didn't really have a response. They're like, well, I still don't understand it. It's not for you to understand. That's a you problem. That's not a me problem. So it gets crazy to consider, where am I going to work? Where am I not going to work? That was not a variable before to me.
Yeah.
That was not a variable before. Where am I not going to work? Where am I not going to be safe? And where am I going to be discriminated against, even when it comes to medical benefits?
Yeah. No, these are all great points. And I want to kind of call out, now I want to kind of think about, just because Peter, you, and I have opposite sex significant others. I'm just going to say it. We're pretty passy. We're pretty passing. If I don't have my fun hair colors, I could pass for a soccer mom hanging out on the ball field. Like, I am not calling specific attention to myself with my plumage and what have you. And I will admit that when the people like say the cards are down, whatever, when life sucks and I just need a job, I will go for the best opportunity for me. And I will worry about expressing myself later. And what I tend to do is, I think I said this before, queer agnostic. I don't say anything unless someone brings it up in a positive way and kind of cruise in. And then once I'm there, I'll start feeling out the waters and dropping hints and expressing myself more because I'm in the door. And I'm not proud of that, but sometimes the bills have to be paid, the mortgage has to be paid, and you do what you have to do. And I was curious to kind of hear Peter's perspective on this, because we've talked a lot about just doing what you have to do to take care of your family quite a bit lately.
Well, my position is interesting in that I have a lot of data. So Nearshore does a lot of staffing recruiting, mostly in Latin America, a little bit in the States, some APAC, some EMEA. And then I needed to put the green banner up a couple of weeks ago because I need to get another source of revenue to keep the company going, really. Interesting thing is I started getting more inbound leads for the business, so I might not need a job. But I noticed for there was a minute there where I took the flag and I took the LGBTQ thing down, and I noticed that, well, I put it back up again And I noticed that there were the people I was talking to, I liked. And when I would talk about like, what the company does and like, it's like education, blah, 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 mostly, for just sort of broader Latin American cybersecurity community, I would say, oh, and we have this podcast, put it like right at the end. And by that time I sort of warmed them up and they were like, oh, you're cool for this and this and this and this. And then I'd say, there's this thing called Queer in Cyber, and I'm just going to wait. And this sort of like, what it did was it set up a kind of confrontation in the other person's head is like, what kind of ally am I if I think I'm an ally? Plenty of people want to call themselves allies, but are they really? The trouble with allies is like, you can kind of like temporarily like resign from that if it's not convenient. And this is, that's just how allyship works. This is why we depend on each other more, because we have skin in the game. Most of us can't really hide. I'm good at hiding because I did it from everyone for 31 years. I practice at it. I have, I'm in a certain position. A lot of people are, I think, because we're just like used to being partially or completely in the closet, sometimes from ourselves. But here's the thing: how many jobs you want? You want one job, probably, and so you need to find that person who wants you. Okay, maybe 2 or 3. You got side hustles, and as a recruiter, my advice to everyone is concentrate on the quality of what in sales we call the funnel. There are prospects that go in the top. Some of those are leads. Some of those become opportunities to track. And then one will fall out the bottom, and that's the deal you sold, and that is a job offer. Don't quit your job until you have a countersigned job offer, and don't really bank on it until the first check clears. But you only need one. And so what you're trying to do as a job seeker is find the person who is looking for you and who may not even know that you exist. If you want to work with people who are going to appreciate you for you as a human being you are, make sure it's visible. Make sure that you can search for it. Make sure that it can be found. Make sure that in some way there's a signal to the market of recruiters and hiring managers in companies like mine that you are there. It takes some courage, right? And again, like I said last time, if we're successful, someday you won't need courage to be queer.
We'll put that under our what does it mean to win column.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
From our other conversation. Plus that ringing phone was very timely to what you were saying, Peter. I felt like it was a special sound effect. Like then they'll reach out to you. Ring.
Ring.
It was perfect.
This platform does sound effects. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe
My telephone.
I do have a media spot. I love it. Ian, you had something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, or actually like float something with you. You were talking about parsing and this and that, and I fit into that sometimes, although I don't think about it as much as I used to. But what it brought to mind is, the whole thing with the hierarchy of needs. It's like you present yourself in the luxury of, not the luxury, but the seeming luxury of being yourself. It falls in the hierarchy of needs. If you're starving or your mortgage is overdue or whatever that is, it takes precedence. It pushes the other things aside, and no one should feel guilty if they set aside being their true and authentic. Something that's much higher on that hierarchy overrides you. If you're a single parent with a kid and you desperately need a job because the kid needs health care, you'll do whatever you have to do. And that's very different from saying, well, I'm in a job now, so the recruiters are talking to me and I'm comfy and I'm this. And so I'm going to say, oh, well, I'm gay. And if you don't want that, go screw yourself. But situation is situational. So what I wanted to say is none of us collectively, should feel guilty if we're put in a situation where we have to make a choice like that. So if Anna has to move to Utah because it's the only job she's got, and one of her kids is sick and her spouse is not working and whatever, then maybe she grits her teeth and does it, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. But when you have luxury, you should, it's in a different place for different people. In the hierarchy.
I want to kind of like underscore a point I was trying to make. Maybe I didn't do it right. I believe that, and I'm going through this with myself right now. I have like way too many interviews. I have lots of companies that I'm in the process with. I don't know which one's going to turn out to be the one. And the more information I put out into the market about me, the better the overall quality of what I have to interview for improves. Like, I don't want 20 companies chasing me. I want like 3. And I want them to be the right ones. So my point about like being out is really about a pre-qualification strategy. As for whether you should be out and to what extent and what ways, like that is entirely up to you. And, you know, whatever you choose, like great. Communicate with us like discreetly. Let us help you. Find members of the community that you can talk to discreetly if that's how you do it. But do find us. And when I say us, I mean like there's the Discord. There are a bunch of groups on LinkedIn. There are little clubs of people who are not public because they just haven't thought of it most of the time, right? But I think like being in the closet is a survival strategy. And if that's the one you need to choose, great. My point is, I don't think it's as effective a job hunting strategy as people may think. I don't have data though. I'm working on it.
Maybe you can start your own study.
Oh, well, I've been thinking a lot about that because I'm reading like that the studies on LGBTQ personalities and lifestyle, right? And we desperately need some studies. Like I think I mentioned in the somewhere, I forgot where it was. The only research data around the queer population in cyber was in the UK. It was a couple of years ago. It showed that like something like 15% of people in cyber are some kind of queer. Then again, if you look at like like outrageously high. But it was only UK, and it was, I don't think it was like KPMG who did it. I don't know why they did it. It seemed kind of odd. And it was probably connected to some kind of like DEI business development effort. I don't know where the money's going to come from to do such a survey. That's the trick. These are expensive. And on balance, I'm not a fan of the DEI industry. I think the professionalization of what ought to be a popular movement is like, it's a topic around revolutionary theory movement building we can have some other time. But yeah, if anybody got some money to put up to do a survey, that'd be awesome.
I think great point. I'd be curious to see more data around this. So far, I feel like our big things that we've hit upon are find your network, find your people, use that network. Finding your people and finding your network doesn't mean that you yourself have to be blasting from the mountaintops that you are queer. I think that just as we go back to thinking about being in the closet, we should be willing to support each other no matter where we are in our journey. Are you out of the closet at home? Are you out of the closet at work? Like, where you are is where you are comfortable right now, and that is your decision. But I think you should feel empowered to reach out to others in the queer community, knowing that they will support you wherever you are in that journey. And I think that was a great point to make. I think my only other topic that I wanted to throw into the mix here is, were there other ways that we're seeing queer people being kind of adversely affected by the cybersecurity job crisis? And I'll just throw out one example I had, which was, it seems across the board, but also really in cybersecurity, there are a lot of queer people in recruitment and in a lot in those skills where jobs are being cut back a lot. And so I have a lot of queer recruiter friends who are looking for work right now. And one, kind of talk about like skills and what makes us so great at being who we are. We talked a lot about that OSINT thing in our previous episode. I think some of the things about, checking things out, doing the testing to make sure something's safe, testing the waters, also works really well as a recruiter for finding the right people for the right job. So I do think that's why we see, or why I see at least, so many queer people in recruiting. But do you see, in your experience, any specific populations or persons, job types that are getting affected more than others?
Honestly, for me,
Yeah.
to tease it, the queer from the not queer because it's not on my radar a lot of the time because I don't think
Okay.
that way. So I'm trying to think, who have I talked to? For me, it's a lot of people with not much experience, and there's a lot of career changers I'm seeing. Usually, people with 3 or 4 years of experience are struggling, but they're a little more picky. And then there's a little gap, and then you go to people with a lot of experience where it's impossible to find new jobs anyway because there are only 3 of them. Because if you're looking for a CISO job, it's very different from if you're looking for a SOC analyst job. But I'm trying to tease them apart.
Yeah.
I think whenever there's a struggle in a job market, it's sort of whoever it is, hiring managers, recruiters, whatever, gravitate to the need, and they hire people like themselves again, even though they know it's a bad idea.
So I'm gonna be the
Yeah.
same and challenge you, Ian, because last time, let's try not to use so much acronyms. I just had a weekend with a lot of people from Mexico City, and they have no idea what a SOC analyst is or what a CISO is. So as much as we can probably explain, Security Operations Center analyst, the Chief Information Security Officer, and then we can go back and use some of those acronyms. But answering to your question, I think it's interesting that many recruiters, which I want to say I agree with you on the jobs cutting back for recruiters. And I want to say and this is just obviously my personal analysis, right? When companies kind of check the box of DEI, they say, okay, we're set. We don't necessarily have to now hire for diversity. They kind of just check the box, and now they start cutting back or reducing those jobs for the recruiters that are going to be more focused on continuing to keep that momentum of diversity, of equity, of inclusion, right? And then one to think that it's easier for bigger companies to say, now just get me, the regular, the normal, the what makes me comfortable, instead of bringing that diversity into my process, right? Because I'll tell you something, and I'm sure, and I'm just making a huge assumption. I'm sure that all of us have talked to someone. The conversation is going great. We're enjoying, how things are going, and then suddenly we say, "Well, my wife," or "Well, my partner," because usually those words are or please use my pronouns correctly, and they feel like they just hit a wall, right? It's like they don't even know how to react, right? And I think this happens too at work when we're interviewing, right? When we're talking to people, and then suddenly you say a word that is like a shock to them. Even if we don't get chosen for the job, we will never know if it was that the reason why we weren't hired. But again, to what extent do we feel we can read the room, and we want to, if I'm in a job and I'm comfortable, I'm going to be open. I'm going to say it if I'm interviewing in other areas. But when we're not, we have to be very careful sometimes how we say things, right? And so going back to closing the circle, recruiters that are in the community have been probably more impacted because they're more conscious about who they bring into these potential positions, right? They want to be diverse, not that they're going to discriminate one way or the other, but they're going to be more diverse and more conscious about giving opportunities to everyone.
We should also remember that there are all sorts of reasons to say no to a candidate, and most of them are completely inscrutable to us. We just don't know. Budget gets canceled. Budget gets deferred. Budget was approved, but authorization to hire was canceled or deferred. Location changed. The job was already somebody else's. Like, I've done this where it's like, well, you have to post a job. I'm like, I already got somebody. They're great. I'm hiring them. And like, got to post it anyway. I'm like, fine. 15 people get interviewed for a job where I'm a recruiter practitioner. I've done both, and I do both. I'm buying all sorts of ways. But I never used that one before. Spontaneity. You just never really know what the reason was for the decision, if there was a decision. I've had more jobs that I've recruited for just flat out get canceled in the past 6 months than I thought was possible. The trick is, like, how much time are you going to invest in a recruiting process? This is why, like, there's something really interesting going on where, like, everybody complained about how long it took to fill out Workday survey applications? Well, Workday changed. Now Easy Apply has made it so easy that every job will have 100 applicants before you say boo. So what do these poor recruiters do? And I have a lot of sympathy. Some of my best friends are recruiters. I think is what Amber was trying to say. Yeah. They're faced with this data problem, the sifting problem. They don't really know what's required. And so sometimes they go, okay, that one, the rest of them, I'm not going to get to. This is the one I have time for. So like they may not even see your resume. Like forget about keywords. Like just the volume of these things is so bad. Plus, like there's an awful lot of time that goes into recruiting. It's really inefficient. Call me if you want an efficient recruiting process. There's my commercial. But like it's very, very hard to get the job description accurate, to understand what needs to go into it, to get the, like it's just such a hard problem. But this is why it's so important to network, right? So if I'm aware of you and I have an opportunity, right, I'm going to call you. How do you get to know people like me, Ray, Ian, Anna, Amber? Well, you engage in the community. You come to events that we come to. You chime in on the Discord or on the whatever or what have you, or you do your own projects, right? And let us know. And then we know that you're like an active member of the community, that you can organize, you can plan, execute, all that stuff. That's what we need most of the time.
That's a good point. I'm going to just kind of go around. I think Ray has something to say. We are at about 13 minutes so I think another round of thoughts, and we can have this be short but sweet, just because I know we have people who have to leave at the top of the hour. So Ray, did you have something you wanted to contribute?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I know that, when the jobs and the availability of the jobs and people that are already skilled in them are back in the mix because they've lost their job. And then they're, putting themselves out there. I think they have an advantage over people with less experience, obviously. But one of the sectors that I think it makes it much, much more difficult for is anyone operating in government, DoD, military type spaces. And the reason I feel that way is that a lot of the CISOs, CEOs, and companies that deal with that, they've come from defense, military, they've had top secret clearance, etc. And many of them have the mentality that people like myself, people that are homosexuals, people that are even closeted if they think they are, that they are a security risk and may have difficulty getting a security clearance. I went through all my time in the Air Force. I was like, they're going to find out somehow, and I'm going to lose my clearance. Because back then, you could. It was don't ask, don't tell. And there was a lot to tell. But anyway, it's, politically, the climate seems to be going that way. And people are going back. Now, we have new stereotypes. We have new stereotypes that I'm not going in the Target women's room to tinkle, okay? I'm going in there because I'm a groomer or a pedophile. What am I doing in there? The Target restroom is the most disgusting. I call our local Target the gerbil cage, because the local Target bathroom, women's room, is the gerbil cage. Because at any time of day, I want to break in there when they're closed and see if it's still a gerbil cage or if they clean it. There are shreds of paper all over the floor as if gerbils live in there. And my daughter works there. I'm like, you ever go in there and there's a clean floor? And she's like, come to think of it, no.
You're describing my favorite nightclubs.
Like, is this the Piccadilly? Is this the Piccadilly pub with like all of the peanut shells on the
If the
floor?
Target bathroom smell like beer,
It's a great name.
It's office ambiance for you.
Yeah. I have one thing that you just made me think of, and I worked really closely with a founder of a company who is trans, and they were even hesitating to, and this is what this is kind of one of the things I was pointing out last time when we talked about like people who are in these positions who have made a political decision to not be out, not advocate for people in general, but they had respect their reasoning in the fact that a very young company, but they didn't want to be super out. They didn't want to, use that in things they were talking about in the company, even though literally the founding team was like 100% queer, because they were aiming to work with government agencies, because they were looking to work within those spheres, and they were rightfully really nervous about the repercussions of that. And it sucks. It sucks that you can't sit up and brag about that. But all right, we got a couple minutes, last thoughts, and then we can wrap. Anything?
Who's next?
Stunned you all silent.
That's still
I'm trying to be polite, so I'll be impolite because that's part of my nature. I mean, I'm just, I keep coming back in my mind everything you've said. Ray, you said a lot of things that I could riff on for like hours, including the BBR and the stickers on the wall. But my wrap up of the whole thing right now, if you're listening to this contemporaneous with us recording, the job market totally sucks in cyber. It sucks for queer people. It sucks for everyone else. And, this is when you really need your communities. So, it's like talk to other people and you'll find that they're suffering the same way you are. I'm talking to a lot of people with a lot of problems and struggling to find jobs and trying to help them find community. And, and it's particularly bad when you're a minority. And you just have to find your people and lean on them more than you're comfortable.
Great point.
I know like this. I am having relatively little trouble finding work, and I know for sure it's because of the work I do for the communities I'm in. It works. So thank you. And that's perfect point to end it on.
Yeah.
What do we do? What's next? When do we do another one of these, Amber?
We got to figure out what we're going to talk about. So we'll end it on a cliffhanger. We'll announce what we're going to talk about soon on the group and in our Discord, which you should join because
LinkedIn.
you want to be part of our community, and we want you to be part of our community.
And the LinkedIn page, which has been...
And the LinkedIn page, all of it. LinkedIn, Discord, everything. So
Follow us.
Yeah.
follow us,
Sure.
like and subscribe.
I love you guys. You're such amateurs of the best kind. This is fantastic.